All right, guys, check it out. I'm gonna give you 4 hip mobility exercises that you can do to enhance your kicking power, your ability to produce strikes at a high velocity, and also improve on overall movement capacity. Let's get into it. When you're talking about combat sports, you wanna have the ability to flex the hips, extend the hips, internally and externally rotate the hips. So whether you're ducking down or you're producing angles or you're producing force in a takedown or takedown defense, we need to be able to flex. We need to be able to extend, right, when we're throwing strikes, and we need to be able to internally and externally rotate, whether it be the stop shots, stop strikes, block strikes, right, whether it be kicks, or when you're throwing your punches or throwing your kicks, you need to have optimal range of motion inside the hip capsule. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do 4 key exercises or movements that we can enhance our mobility and active end range control of the hip capsule. So the first thing we're gonna do is work into hip extension, right? So when we extend the hip, we wanna make sure that we're squeezing the antagonistic muscle group. So that's gonna be the glute max. And what we're gonna do is take either a bench or a couch, or even put your foot up on the wall, and you're gonna stretch out the quads and then also get that hip flexors stretched out by driving your hips forward and squeezing that glute max on the back side. Then from there, I'm gonna drive forward and I'm gonna get an extra stretch here on that lateral chain and oblique line. And I'm gonna take my arm, my elbow, put it into the hip and then reach back behind me. You're gonna get a big stretch here throughout this chain and drive your hip forward, right? So now we're stretching out the obliques, the lats, the hip flexors, and we're getting a quad stretch too as well. You're gonna hold here, breathe into the position. So inhale, and then exhale. All while when you go to exhale, you're gonna drive your hips forward and again, squeeze your glutes. You can do 2 to 3 sets, staying in this position for roughly 30 seconds to a minute long. All right, the next one we're gonna do is a single leg glute bridge. We're activating the glute muscles, and then we're driving into hip extension. The other leg, you're gonna pull that knee into your chest, making sure you get a bigger stretch while pulling that knee into the chest. So here it goes. You're gonna go down to the ground, plant the foot. We're gonna drive the knee into the chest, head down, and then hip extension as much as you can, driving into the ground. So now we're activating the antagonistic muscles to help with hip extension. Then you're gonna come back down. I'm gonna drive back up, back down, right? Another thing is you don't wanna let the knee flare out. So we're gonna make sure we're driving down into the ground and the knee is in line with the big toe as you drive up, right? So we're holding this. We're not flaring out here. We're just trying to stay nice and aligned, stacking the joints, working on activating that glute max, and then back down. You'll inhale, and then exhale on the way up. Stretch out, then back down. 2 to 3 sets of 5 to 10 repetitions on each side. All right, the next one we are going to do is a quadruped hip whip. What this is gonna do is that's gonna get you into hip extension. We're gonna get into external and internal rotation, and we're gonna go into abduction and hip flexion. So you're working a lot of things here. So the first thing you wanna do is get into a quadruped position or hands and knees, right? So the hands are gonna be directly underneath the shoulders. The knees are gonna be directly underneath the hips. Then from there, I'm gonna go ahead and straighten my leg all the way out to the back. I'm gonna squeeze my glutes. I'm gonna get into that hip extension as you can see, and then I'm going to externally rotate the hip. So it's a small movement. I'm gonna externally rotate as much as I can without bending my elbow or causing any type of compensation throughout my body. So I'm locking in, I'm externally rotating, and then I'm gonna drive my leg to the side in hip flexion. Then I'm gonna bring it back in, internally rotate, and then pull the knee back into midline and start over. Two to 3 sets roughly 5 repetitions on each side. The last one, what we're gonna do is work into internal and external rotation in this 90-90 base position. What you wanna maintain is a good postured spine, so stay nice and tall. From there, you're gonna go ahead and work through this range of motion. Make sure that you're trying to gain as much distance between each knee as possible as you go to rotate through. So you're gonna go 90-90, and then you're gonna shift your hips, external rotation, into a bear sit position, which I'll show you in a minute, and then back into 90-90 on the other side. So it looks like this. I'm gonna stay nice and tall. You can use your hands for balance. You're gonna go ahead and start driving the backside leg that's in hip extension. You're gonna start driving that into external rotation. So I'm gonna drive out as much as I can. All the while, my flexed hip that's in front of me is staying down. I'm pushing it into the ground. So again, I'm trying to get as much distance away from each knee as possible, holding that position as much as I can until I have to actually bring this leg up to transition. Now, when I get to here, I'm gonna maintain this position and try to drive my legs apart. So now I'm in this bear sit position and I'm basically stretching out my groin. Then from there, I'm gonna drive my knee down into the floor. Hold, stay tall as I can with my chest, not rounding here, getting tall, and then I'm gonna close the angle down, again, working into internal rotation on the hip extended side, right? I rotate back around again, open up with the hip extended, external rotation, driving through, making sure the balls of my feet are staying in contact with the ground, chest is tall. I'm opening up, getting as much distance as possible, staying tall. Drive the knee down into external rotation and then internally rotate on the back side hip and then squeeze that glute medius, locking in that internal rotation here. So for this, you want to do 2 to 3 sets, and then you want to rotate back and forth 3 to 5 repetitions. All right, there you have it. 4 exercises for hip mobility to enhance your combat sports performance. Make sure you do this before your skills training, and you can also do this on a standalone day to just improve your overall mobility. Thanks again for watching. If you want to find out more details on my particular methods and protocols of strength training for combat sport athletes and for any sport athlete, check out my mentorship program. Link is down below. Subscribe, hit the notification. I'll see you again next time. Peace. Boom.